Welcome to ADSN's pregame coverage of the Hornets and Mavericks tonight from the Spectrum Center. Michael Freer here with Ryan Hedrick. Big game tonight for the Hornets as they play their final home game for a while as they embark on a 6-game road trip coming up.
Yeah, this is a monstrous road trip for them, Mike. And you know, it can really define their season. They don't return home until the 14th, 6 games. They play everybody on the West Coast except for the Lakers. Thank goodness for them, because the Hornets are shorthanded, as we all know.
Yeah, the Hornets will be without Cody Zeller and Jeremy Lamb tonight, and that produces some lineup changes. And earlier, Coach Pregame talked about the lineup changes coming up tonight.
Try to figure things out with Cody being out, where we're going to go. That one could change game to game. I hope not, but you know that could change in the near future.
Who's starting? I don't want to ask passive aggressively. Who's starting?
We're going to start Devontae and Billy. Start Devontae and Billy.
And I know you talked some about this last week or two, but specific to him starting his first games in the NBA, what has he done to invest so much faith in you?
Well, I think, you know, even from the summer league, every game he's played, he's handled himself well. You know, he's rarely had a bad stretch of basketball. He's just solid. You know, makes good plays, winning plays. I think his teammates really enjoy playing with him. He makes others better. There's a confidence about him, a strength about him, and you know, I feel very confident with him out there on the floor. And I think more than anything, I said this before, his teammates do as well, which I think gives me a lot of confidence to start him. And I think I like just having another secondary ball handler next to Kemba. I think that's been productive for us this season, whether it's been Tony out there with him, and you know, Devontae is more than capable of making shots, confident shooter. I think he's only going to get better over time in his shot, and we need him to be aggressive, especially with Lamb out right now.
When you lose 2 starters, what does that do to the chemistry that's developing as a whole? How hellacious is that for you as a coach and your staff?
Well, it's a challenge. You know, anytime you lose 1 starter, much less 2, it throws your rhythm off. I mean, our rhythm is a little bit off, but I think this group they played, you know, we played a number of combinations throughout the season. So, you know, adding a new wrinkle to that isn't anything new for these guys. You know, our starters have been intact for the most part this season, so our starting group will look different. But in general, all these guys are ready to go. It's not like, you know, these new rotations or these new guys coming into the mix haven't played together. You know, they've all played together. So, but our start of the game will be different. It'll look different. It'll feel different. But we're more than capable of handling this.
How would you see Lamb's absence affecting, you know, down your rotation beyond just starting Devontae?
You know, I don't know how much it affects it. I think it's more at the 5 position. It'll downsize us a little bit, you know. I think with Lamb out, with Devontae coming into the mix, you still keep Monk in the rotation as the backup. Miles is still there, you know, to back up Nick. What I do see is without Cody, we could downsize and play Miles more at some more 4 spot. You know, maybe Marvin more at 5. We could see that as well down the road. If we need Miles more at 4, MKG at 4, maybe Marvin at 5. So it could shift us down at that 5 spot if we need more shooting, more offense.
Do you see? Go ahead, Rick. Do you see? Do you know anything new about how Jeremy's doing?
No, just that he's day to day. No, I don't.
On the other side, what impresses you the most about Luka Doncic and the challenges that he presents to you guys?
Well, he's just a special talent, high IQ basketball player, very confident kid. I mean, his confidence just oozes. You watch him on TV, you watch him on the court. He's just high basketball IQ and plays with this swagger and confidence. And I think I was around a player like that in Ginobili. He just had this sort of confidence about him. You know, he's just very confident, makes crazy plays, crazy shots. And when the game is tightest and the pressure's the highest, he performs at his highest as well, and that's special. Those guys are hard to find.
So lineup changes for the Hornets tonight, as Coach Pregame mentioned. Ryan, what do you think this is going to do for this team?
It's going to be very interesting. Devontae Graham is going to play a mix of point guard and shooting guard. What this is going to do, it's going to alleviate a little bit of the stress and defensive pressure that we see teams putting on Kemba Walker. For instance, Devontae is going to play little 1, little 2, and when Kemba feels like creating plays off of the ball, he will be able to do that. And when they want to take the ball out of his hands and let Devontae Graham be the quarterback or point guard, whatever you want define it in the NBA, then they can do that as well. I see nothing but good things coming out of this because Devontae Graham, to me, is an emerging star with the Hornets. The work he's done off the court, Mike, has really translated into success. He's had some great games in the last couple of weeks for the Hornets.
It's very important. The Hornets, once again, 18-18. 17th time they've been 500 this year. Out of 18 possible combinations, they've hit 17 of them. As they head up there, we mentioned this the last time when they were hosting the Cavaliers, how big a game that was because they were playing a lesser opponent. The Mavericks, the worst road team in the league at 2-16, and when you're hitting the West Coast like you're going to hit, you do not want to go in there with a loss to this team.
Yeah, let me play devil's advocate and flip it around. How good are the Hornets really? Because I see a lot of similarities between the Hornets and the Mavericks. The Mavericks are 17-19. The Hornets are 18-18. There was a stretch earlier this year, not too long ago, where the Mavericks didn't win a game, Mike, for 2 weeks. Imagine that. And they're still 17-19. Before that stretch started, they were 15-12. After the stretch, they were like a game or two under 500. So these teams could be very competitive. This could be a very competitive game tonight.
Well, one thing worth watching tonight is the Mavericks' 19-year-old rookie, Luka Doncic.
He's excellent.
Leading all rookies in scoring, almost 20 a game with 19.6. Coming off a 30-point game against the Pelicans a few games back. So he's definitely worth the price of admission.
Yeah, he's their playmaker. He's the guy that James Borrego says has a very high basketball IQ. This is a guy that stirs the drink for the Mavericks. As the Mavericks go, so goes Luka Doncic.
This is one of just 4 home games the Hornets will play this month. They play 10 road games, the most road games in the league for the month of January, and they play everybody. They play the best team in the West in the Nuggets. They play the best team in the East in the Bucks. They played the team that had the hottest record, the best record in the NBA in December, in the Pacers. They played 4 highest scoring teams. Well, actually, the 3 highest scoring teams in the month of December. I mean, they play everybody this month.
This month, to me, is really going to define who the Charlotte Hornets are and are going to be going into February and March. For instance, the last time the Hornets played the Mavericks last March, they got the win I think it was 102-98. That was their 33rd win. If they don't have at least, I would say, 24 to 25 wins coming out of this month, they may be in trouble. And we're going to see how good this team is when they hit the West Coast because, to me, they need to go at least 500 to avoid complete disaster here in the month of January. This is a critical stretch, folks, for the Charlotte Hornets.
Yeah, we've been mentioning all the time, and I bring it up how they just are 500 all the time and how ridiculous it is that they keep being 500. If they were to end the month of January at 500, it would feel like some sort of accomplishment.
Yeah, I agree with you, and so does Tony Parker. I talked to him last week, and he was very, very adamant that this team, especially the youngsters, start being more consistent. He wants consistency from this team. He stopped me actually mid-sentence during a post-game press conference and said, I don't want to hear about the inconsistencies. I don't want to talk about if we're 500, sub 500. I want this team to be consistent. I want this team to get well over 500. I think we're capable of doing just that.
Another guy to look out for the Mavericks tonight, former NC State guard Dennis Smith, who came back from a wrist injury. He's still not scoring the way he was last year. He hasn't had a 20-point game since November, but he has hit for 50% from the field in 3 straight games. So maybe he's coming out of it just in time with the Hornets in town.
You know, we were talking with Coach Borrego and joking with him about Nowitzki matching up against Parker tonight. He's like, we should just bring them all back. We should bring Nowitzki back and Terry back. It'll be a big Mavericks reunion. I actually just saw Michael Finley in the hallway. All these guys are legendary stars in the NBA. Makes me feel so old, I'm telling you.
Tell me some of the key players tonight for this matchup.
I think Devontae Graham, he's going to be a big factor for the Hornets. I think that he's going to, if he can establish the jump shot early, he's going to draw the defense out, open up a little bit of congestion in the lane for Billy Hernangomez to operate with impunity. And I also think that Kemba Walker, how he responds to Devontae being either a 1 or a 2 is going to dictate how the Hornets are going to mesh in that backcourt. I think the backcourt for the Hornets is very, very interesting. I think those 2 guys are the ones to watch tonight.
I'll tell you, Kemba Walker looks like he's coming out of his slump a little bit. It started in the Cavaliers game. Keys for the game tonight?
I think the keys for the game, rebounding. We're going to see the rebounding really have a big factor. I think offensive rebounding, especially Billy Hernan Gomez, I think he needs to stay out of foul trouble, and I think they need to control the offensive glass to limit the second chance opportunities for the Mavs. We all know Luka Doncic is very opportunistic. He follows his shot. He's a very, very high basketball IQ. So good offensive rebounding to me to limit their fast break points and get more second chance opportunities.
The Hornets, despite being 500, are still leading the Southeast, albeit by a half a game over the Heat. And it's a really tough division with Magic right there. And even the Wizards, for as poor as they've been playing without John Wall for the rest of the year, are still just 3.5 back. So it's a really tight division where you cannot lose a few games.
Yeah, we talked about this at the Cleveland game ad nauseum. You cannot ever count out anybody in the NBA, especially the Washington Wizards. Watch that team. I understand that John Wall, from people that I know within the Washington Wizards organization, John Wall is a cancer in the locker room. Maybe him being out of the lineup, out of the mix, may lend them a little bit more chemistry, may spur a run or two. This game is a game of runs, both on the court and off the court. We'll see what the division brings up as we go along.
So Mavericks and Hornets there tonight at the Spectrum Center. Coming up in a little while, we'll be right here, ADSN, for our post-game coverage to give you the recap. With any luck, it'll be a happy recap. So for Mike Freer and Ryan Hedrick, this has been pregame coverage from ADSN.